Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the smAsh News Network, least busted name in news. We'll be doing a bit of a news crawl, talking to our viewers, etc. So leave us a comment. We'll put your chats up on the screen momentarily. First thing we're going to talk about is some weather. Yeah, we're going to go into weather, doing some meteorology here at the smAsh News Network. By the way, I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We'll be talking about whatever you want. First, the U.S. Doppler radar map. Let's zoom in on Southern California for once and see what's going on down there. We saw some thunder and indeed some snow falling there. North of LA around Burbank. Looks like a pretty powerful low pressure system there rotating to the counterclockwise. Let's take a look at the water vapor map for that region. And give me a moment while I pull that up. Going to go out to the west coast for once. And this should give all of you Californians some idea of what's going on with that rotating system. And let me just move my tabs here. There we go. And there you can see that rotating system off the coast of Central California there. Quite a powerful low, it looks like, as we see a strong counterclockwise rotation. So there's the Doppler radar map. Allow me to vanish. Some heavy snow there in the southern central part of the state. Likely to be a wet snow. And again, there's a view of that rotating system. It's going to cause the whole thing to stagnate. And let's get into some news stories here, see what's going on the news wire. And with our viewers, again, if you're viewing, leave us a comment. Let us know what you're into. Are you super excited that the government's decided to send you $2,000? I guess that's a thing. I haven't really even looked into it, because really the whole argument is ridiculous, silly, nonsensical politics. According to Zero Hedge, Trump signs the COVID-19 relief bill with $600 checks, asks Congress to approve increase later. Yeah. All right. Nice. So everybody enjoy that. Whatever happens, Democrats will take credit for it. And most of the news media will swear to it. Politicians lie and the mainstream media swears to it. Let's see what other stories we've got here on Zero Hedge, a fairly trusted name in news, similar to the smAsh News Network, which, oh crap, it's on fire again. Would you please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAshomash so we can afford a fire extinguisher and I can stop using my super breath to put this out. Again, that's patreon.com/smAshomash. Please join at the $3 per month or higher tier, as will be eliminated the $1 and $2 tiers by the first day of 2021, the year of accountability. Will you be holding your politicians accountable? So apparently a bunch of illegal street vendors are overtaking New York City. And guess who they're blaming? Bill de Blasio. It's also partially Andrew Cuomo's fault. Two bureaucrats who are overpaid and mentally malnourished, who should absolutely be held accountable in the year 2021. Who's on your list of accountable parties? I've got another one for you. Maybe you've heard of them. Have you heard of that? Have you? Let me just define a term for you. Google, verb, to use the Google Junkware search engine for an internet search to obtain biased search results. To use it in a sentence, I now know less about the subject because I Googled it. See what I did there? All right. So let's see. It looks like gold has gone up as a result of a Trump tweet. That's interesting. Ah, yes. And the Trump tweet is, good news on COVID relief bill, information to follow. So there you go. That's a reason for gold to increase in price. And let's go see what's going on with it. Let's check the current state of pricing. And it doesn't look that expensive to me. Here's a one-year chart. So there's a one-year chart of gold. I don't know where the big uptick is. Let's look at the 5-day chart. And not exactly sure what that's about. The tweet happened on December 27th, yesterday, at 6:21 p.m. So I don't see some big uptick in the futures there. I don't know what the big deal is. It doesn't look like it had very much of an effect to me. And while we're here, I'll just show you the rest of cnbc.com/markets. I'll get off the screen. I'll put your viewer chats on the screen here in a minute. I'm just going to let this scroll slowly down. And the futures will be at the bottom here. Big losers include Marathon Oil, Apache Corp, Devon Energy, and General Motors, and eBay for some reason. I wonder why eBay is down. U.S. Treasury yields rise after Trump signs COVID relief bill. That makes 0 sense. You would expect Treasury bills to drop. So that's an odd, completely counterintuitive move in U.S. Treasury bonds. Makes no sense. Just like the initial crash when COVID happened made no sense. We saw crypto and precious metals and the equities markets all crash at the same time. And at that time, bonds went up again, which is why I said the whole thing is engineered and a scam, and that the market was crashed intentionally. If you didn't know, we've got a giant forum section about it in the free-for-all forum at smAsho.com/forum. Anyway, there are the commodities. Silver up 52 cents. Let's bring up the one-year chart of silver here. And it is actually a similar chart there to gold. Bitcoin is also at all-time highs. And just give that a moment. There we go. I would expect the US dollar to actually be down. Let's see if that's up also. Another indication that something very, very fishy is going on in the US equities markets. And the US dollar is flat, as far as I can tell. Let me bring up the one-year chart of the US dollar index so you can see how horrifying that is. There's the US dollar index. as a lot of folks have been banking on inflation, and I don't blame them. I'm expecting massive inflation also. So yeah, there's the 1-year chart of the US dollar. Ouch. And let's just take a quick look here at the futures markets to see where it looks like things will be opening at market open today. The Nikkei's up and the Shanghai's up, but the Shenzhen is down. The Hang Seng is down also. Regarding European markets, the FTSE's up, the DAX is down, the CAC is up. I mean, the DAX is, they're all up. All European markets are up today. So Dow futures indicate opening 200 points above the close on Christmas Eve. And where are the futures there? I thought there were futures. There are the futures. Gold expected to go down, so that doesn't make any sense. Perhaps we'll hear the same excuse as when COVID crashed the markets, that they were selling precious metals to cover short trades. In other words, they were expecting stocks to go down, so they sold gold to cover shorts. Sounds like a silly idea to me. I'm not buying it. And of course, more cheap money being injected into the market does tend to mean that stocks will rise. What say you, the viewer? And thanks for leaving comments, Sherry, and pull my finger. And we'll put your chats on the screen here in a moment once I get to another story. Cornell student reps targeted for opposing efforts to defund and disarm campus cops. And like I said yesterday, if you're capable of being the police, then by all means, try to defund the police. If you're incapable of being the police, it's not recommended. In other words, unless you're capable of being a warlord, I don't recommend becoming a warlord unless you're capable of being a warlord. And they've got a weather story here on Zero Hedge, as they are going way too far ahead with this. The New Year's Day storm expected to sweep across the eastern U.S. And here are your viewer chats. Thanks for leaving comments, viewers. There are your chats. And here's the animation that they're showing, which looks highly questionable. And let's go to Tropical Tidbits and take a look at that ourselves. So I'm going to go to Forecast Models. I'm going to let that play through. And that is a pretty anomalous looking system there. That's the GFS forecast, which has already changed since Zero Hedge put up the article. So, yeah. Forecasting that far ahead, folks, is fraught with problems. And again, as I said yesterday, if you don't understand the physics, don't forecast at all, because you are going to be wrong on the regs. And here at the Smash News Network, we prefer not to be wrong. So, yeah. There's the forecast through 12 noon Universal Time on New Year's Day. And it's a forecast for a wintry mix here in eastern Pennsylvania. I don't care. I'll have my feet up all day long. And I'll be eating pork and kraut, most assuredly. Man, we made this beef roast yesterday, and yowzers was it good. It was so lean that I was a little bit concerned about if it would be tender or not. So what I did is I put it in the pan in the oven, and I broiled both major sides of it. I broiled them for like 5 or 10 minutes each to kind of seal in the juices, and then I cooked them at a low temperature. I think it was 270 degrees, 275, something like that. It took about an hour and a half. It was about a 3.5 pound roast, and man, oh man, it is fantastic. In fact, after this stream, I may have to go have some. Perhaps we'll do videos sometime on YouTube about recipes. It's not a playlist yet on the channel, but it could be. And thanks everybody for leaving comments. Again, I will put those momentarily on the screen. And yes, I did hear about the Nashville bombing and that there are concerns. The mainstream narrative is that it's because of the guy, the alleged bomber, was a 5G conspiracy theorist. And of course, I've heard other theories about how the servers were being used to process Dominion voting machine code or something like that. That the AT&T building was some sort of a server hub node for the processing of data from Dominion voting machines or something like that. Yes, I did indeed. I did indeed hear something about that. Looks like there's a major glitch emerging in COVID vaccines. And for those of you not aware, I won't be taking a COVID vaccine as I've developed an extremely sensitive reaction to plastics in the past few months. And it's a result of wearing masks. I'm not sure when this little condition that I've developed is going to go away, but I've got a chronic dry skin on my face, also on my neck, around my ears. It's pretty serious. And yeah, but I have a long-standing toxicity and sensitivity to metals. So, in other words, if I wear a cheap watch, it will make me break out. And that right there is a reason to not get vaccinated. So, not to give out any medical advice here for you folks. By the way, follow us on Facebook. I put up a post about the pathetic and ineffective response that governments and corporations have had to coronavirus. And in short, it is utterly tyrannical, ineffective, and indeed evil to attempt to mandate people with no symptoms to wear masks or to lock down. We shouldn't be quarantining healthy people or forcing them to do anything out of the ordinary. If you're sick, stay home. Don't accuse me of being selfish. You're selfish for trying to control people. Just because you're comfortable staying home all the time doesn't mean that everybody else is. Enough with that. So, this major vaccine glitch emerging, hospital staffs refusing to take the virus. I heard about a Chicago hospital where like 60% of the staff in the hospital refused to take it. Apparently the same thing's going on in Europe. So Europe rolled out a huge COVID-19 vaccination drive on Sunday to try to rein in the pandemic. But even more Europeans than Americans are skeptical about the speed at which vaccines have been tested and approved and are reluctant to have the shot. What say you? Are you just chomping at the bit to go get a vaccination? This mRNA vaccine that's a little bit, shall we say, untested on humans? The European Union has secured contracts for drug makers including Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, and more than 2 billion doses, and has set a goal for all adults to be inoculated next year, 2021, the year of accountability. following this year, the year of clarity, as I forecasted last year. I tend to be right on my forecasts, and I don't usually break out the crystal ball. I just do the forecast based on skill, talent, and training, I guess. It's not psychic powers that I'm aware of. Maybe it is psychic powers, but if it is, I'm certainly not paid to tell you so. Again, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAsho, the true source of funding for the content. Irene says, Sikorsky, 41, says, I don't think there's a vaccine in history that has been tested so quickly, as he stepped out of a church in central Warsaw with his 2 children. I'm not saying vaccination shouldn't be taking place, but I'm not going to test an unverified vaccine on my children or on myself. Yeah. So since this is a YouTube live stream exclusive, let's put your comments on the screen here. And again, thanks for tuning in, Sherry, and Pull My Finger, and John White, and Chad Myers, and anybody else who's viewing. And let's see, what do we have here? Sherry says she just changed to DuckDuckGo. Not sure if it's good or not. It's certainly better than Google. Google returns biased search results. And a personal story, I stopped using Google in 2012. I believe it was 2012 or 2011, when I had to search, I think it was 14 pages deep, but at least a dozen pages deep to find a URL that I typed in. So I typed in a URL, the entire web address of a company, and I had to go 12 pages deep. Why? Because that company wasn't sending Google money to appear higher on the search results. The way Google became the world's leading search engine was by, sorry about that, there's your chats. The way Google became the world's leading search engine was by having a simple search algorithm. What it did is it simply returned searches at the top of the list for the most visited websites. It no longer does that if there are entities paying it to be at a higher spot on the list. So, and by the way, all the tracking information goes to Indian and Chinese marketeers, because market makers in India and China would like their shoppers to shop like Americans. And so that is what the spyware is for. Facebook, Google, and Twitter are all responsible for it. Also Amazon. The reason that they're spying on you with their junkware is because they're selling the data associated with your search history, your shopping preferences, your web surfing preferences to about 3 billion people via market makers in China and India, because there are 1 billion people in both companies, and so there is a lot of money to be made in those emerging markets. And let me put your chats back up on the screen here. John White says he gets his medical advice from whatever his body relays to him. I hope your body is relaying quality information. Chad Meyer says apparently it's a pretty big conspiracy that'll have folks jumping in rabbit holes. How do they pronounce your name? Isn't it just Chad Myers? What are they saying? Chad Mirays. All right, so let's see what else we've got here in our news crawl. I'll look at some mainstream news sources here as well. Now, the U.S. does depend on China for a lot of rare earth metals. Will we be able to reduce our dependency on those Chinese rare earth metals? Who knows? I know lithium is a major issue, and we're always looking for new battery technology. And battery technology is one of the waves of the future, folks. So it could be a good thing in which to invest. We did post a story on our Twitter yesterday about 12 times the lockdowns were wrong, as well as a meme about Dr. Neil Ferguson, who I would prefer to see behind bars, or at least held civilly accountable, because Dr. Neil Ferguson of the UK is one of the prime at-fault parties for the way the West has handled COVID-19. What he did was he forecasted about 10 times as many deaths as COVID. There we go. Yeah, so Neil Ferguson, I like him better behind bars. And that's one of the many times governments were wrong with their projections about things like the mortality rate. And, you know, what you're seeing now is a case-demic as news agencies continue to report on the number of cases without quantifying it in any way. So the number of cases, by the way, is utterly irrelevant if not quantified with number of tests or number of deaths or number of hospitalizations or something like that, because if you're just going to go around testing everybody, the inaccuracy of the PCR test instantly comes into play, first of all. So whether or not the tests are even accurate is an issue. And, of course, the other issue is it relevant? Do those people have symptoms? Are people dying? Are people even going to the hospital? Are hospitals really overcrowded? So, apparently, the alleged bomber in Nashville is a guy by the name of Anthony Warner, who police chiefs say died in the bombing. So, as reported by CBS News, which you may want to take with a grain or indeed a truckload of salt, here's the alleged Nashville bomber. I'm going to put his face way too big on the screen and have mine vanish from the screen, and put your chats on the screen as well. This is the face of the alleged bomber, Anthony Warner. Jim says most lithium is in Afghanistan, and I would tend to believe Jim, as he seems to know about his elements, his rocks. Jim knows his rocks. Glad to hear so far so good, John White. Anyway, that's the alleged Nashville bomber. And according to Josh Margolin, multiple law enforcement sources say investigators are looking seriously at whether Warner may have been motivated, at least in part, by a paranoia over 5G cellular technology. Sources say it appears he may have also have believed in aliens. Do you believe in aliens? Do you think that those crazy UFOs that have been sighted over the Pacific Ocean are actually extraterrestrial in origin, or are they just government craft? I don't think seeing the Tic Tac craft are an indication that extraterrestrial life has ever been documented. Just because the Pentagon says that they came from some other world doesn't necessarily mean you should believe it, as the Pentagon has a lot of strategic and tactical concerns on its mind when it posts anything. And by the way, that explosion caused a massive outage of AT&T's service, so there could be a lot of different reasons, a lot of different motives for anybody to want to shut down that much service on Christmas Day. So, yeah, that's interesting. And again, thanks everybody for leaving comments. There's the scene following the explosion. So it does not look like a standard jihad here, as we only see, I think there was only one person killed in the blast. As I guess they did DNA testing. Preliminary tests of remains found at the scene were a match to alleged bomber Warner. So there you go. And what else do we have going on here? No. I'm back. So let's see. World's first COVID human challenge begins as UK prepares to infect 2,500 volunteers. What? 2,500 healthy Britons are about to participate in the world's first COVID-19 human challenge. What could possibly go wrong? Letting the government infect them with SARS-CoV-2 in order to see how the virus reacts to an experimental vaccine, according to The Times. That's thetimes.co.uk. What could possibly go wrong, folks? The first stage of the study, conducted by Imperial College, kicks off in January and will track an initial group of 90 subjects aged 18 to 30 who will receive an experimental nasal vaccine before being infected with the disease in a, quote, secure biocontainment suite. One test subject, Alistair Fraser Urquhart, 18, says he signed up for the trials to, quote, bring the world out of the pandemic sooner, end quote, telling BBC Radio 4 that he'll be locked up for at least 2 weeks while his body's response is monitored. All right. It's a dirty job, but somebody besides me's got to do it. I'll be remaining at the clinic really for as long as it takes, he said. Obviously, we can't have it infecting anyone who isn't a part of the trial, so every volunteer will need to be held in biocontainment, yeah? God bless them, everyone. Another volunteer, 29-year-old Jennifer Wright, tells Daily Mail that she was, quote, very sure that I would take a risk to help out, end quote. Adding, quote, some of my friends work for NHS and they've been taking risks all through the pandemic while I've been looked after and stayed safe, end quote. Cool. So that's something to monitor in the coming month. What say you, the viewer? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here's a good article. This sounds logical, as hospitals have been financially incentivized to artificially inflate their COVID-19 death counts and case rates. Did you notice how the flu mysteriously vanished? Do you think that might be because hospitals are labeling the flu as COVID-19 since they're getting funding up to 40% higher as a result? Let's see what this article has to say about cleaning up the COVID-19 death counts. Now, even with the death counts where they are, COVID-19 has not killed a significant percentage of the world's population. It's nothing like the Black Plague. It's nothing like smallpox. It's nothing like the Spanish flu 1918 to 1919 pandemic. It's nothing like that at all. It's barely a blip on the radar. And has it even caused excess deaths? So everybody knows there's been issues with counting, as people like car accident victims and gunshot wound victims have been labeled as COVID-19 deaths. Let's see what the article has to say. Lockdowns Incorporated loves them to justify the destruction of lives and livelihoods. Has your state governor been destroying your state's economy? Tom Wolf certainly has. And I can't wait for Tom Wolf to be held accountable in the year 2021, the year of accountability, as it'll take at least a year to hold everybody accountable for the pathetic, ridiculous, and infantile response to COVID-19. Speaking of the pathetic, infantile, and ridiculous response to COVID-19, we've got a website which was not made as a ridiculous, infantile, and pathetic response to COVID-19, but what we did do is create a giant repository of information in our free-for-all forum. So if you head to smAshomash.com/forum, there's a free-for-all forum there, and our most popular forum thread ever is coronavirus, which has had 19,624 views. It's over 30 pages long. And the first thing I said on January 23rd of this year is it dangerous? Not particularly for healthy people. What are coronaviruses and where do they come from? Now, why did I say such a thing? Was I being reckless? Well, not at all. It's because I actually knew something about infectious diseases to begin with. I'm not a complete COVIDiot who just learned how to wash my hands in the year 2020. So if you want to read all about that, we copy-pasted most of the bodies of the articles in there so that when the articles are changed over and over and over again, we will have a record and a timeline of the way things transpired. So perhaps check that out. It's all free at smAshomash.com/forum. It's a public service. By the way, if you'd like a souvenir for surviving a global pandemic, and congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. Practically everybody does. And by the way, the median age of death from COVID-19 is like 80 years old, which is the median age of death, period. Also, most people who've died of COVID-19 have died in nursing homes. Anyway, if you'd like a souvenir, head to smAshomash.com, scroll down here, and head to the smAsho store. Perhaps pick up some merch, like our COVID-19 Smasher Price My First Pandemic shirt. If you haven't seen that, check it out. The print quality is quite high. So again, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. So far, we've also got this one, which has that exact motto. I've survived the global pandemic. So far. Are you safe yet? Well, again, pick up some merch. Yeah, we've got cloth masks and we've got a neck gaiter. So check that out. So let's see here. Washington's data was riddled with cases, as much as 13% of the total, in which the death certificate made no reference to COVID-19 as a cause of death. In several cases, even gunshot deaths were chalked up to the virus. Yeah. A little bit of fraud. A little bit of fraudulent data in my life. A little bit of fraudsters causing strife. A little bit of nonsense on the web. Let's bring your chats back up again. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in. De Beers would be bankrupt quick. Oh, yeah. Diamonds. He must be talking about diamonds. If Russia released the diamonds they have in vaults, a carat would be worth $5. Yeah. Yep, some cheap Russian diamonds. And thanks for commenting, Mr. Keebler. And Nary Wright, yes, follow the money. Good point, Mary. Cheers. All right, let's see what else we've got here. So yeah, we're hoping that the COVID-19 fatality numbers get cleaned up, since the death counts are utterly ridiculous, and a margin of error of over 10% in terms of causes of death is not acceptable at all. So yeah, apparently the experts are expertly committing fraud. What a surprise. Similar to the experts who claim that carbon dioxide runs the climate. What a joke. Not even close to being true. Congratulations on the UK for leaving the European Union. And so let's just talk about the COVID-19 relief bill here, as Trump has used some kind of a clause. So yesterday, Trump signed a $900 billion pandemic relief package, which will include $600 direct check checks I don't know what direct checks are. I thought they're just direct checks. Abandoning his immediate demand that Congress go back to the drawing board and provide $2,000 checks, and instead encourage them to vote on a separate bill to, quote, increase payments to individuals from $600 to $2,000. Quote, I am signing this bill to restore unemployment benefits, stop evictions, provide rental assistance and money for PPP, return our airline workers back to work, and substantially more money for vaccine distribution, and much more, end quote, Trump said in a Sunday night statement. The pandemic relief package is coupled with $1.4 trillion in funds to run the government through September. And I'd like to say, boy, that's an awful nice government you got there. Be a shame if it shut down, eh? Seriously, it's not my birthday yet. Is it possible that the government could shut down? Nope. It's funded through September. Sorry for all of you dreaming of a government shutdown. Improve your life today. Vote for a government shutdown. In a statement, Trump said that Congress on Monday would vote on a separate bill to, quote, increase payments to individuals from $600 to $2,000. The bill creates a new $300 weekly unemployment supplement and replenishes forgivable loan program for small businesses. It also creates new criminal penalties, including prison time for violating copyright laws with online streaming. Well, geez, it's a good thing I'm not playing any audio or showing anything on the screen. Stream on YouTube. Nowadays, you won't even get just demonetized. You'll go to jail for it. Cheers. I don't know what's up with that. All right, and let's... Oh, did you hear Apple's making cars? Apple thinks that... Well, somebody thinks that Elon ought to be afraid. In other words, Tesla should be scared of the idea that Apple's going to make cars. Oh, man. Really? Would you like a car that costs the same as a Ferrari and performs like a Volvo? Then buy an Apple car. Yeah, right. So yeah, Portfolio Armor seems to think that Elon ought to be afraid. I think that's hilarious. And I'm not even a fan of Tesla, but nonetheless, what a joke. Apple cars. An Apple-Tesla showdown will happen on the factory floor. Being able to deliver your product is a key competitive advantage, and Apple has it down. Cars shouldn't be any different. Yeah, right. Apple cars. By the way, Apple is a zombie company which died with Steve Jobs, and it's surviving only on its legacy and on the backs of its attorneys. If you're wondering what I think, that's what I think. I think Apple sucks. And I've always hated Apple, as I've been an IBM compatible, IBM PC, whatever. And I also use Android, which also sucks. And for those of you not aware, Google owns Android. So it is a bit of an issue. And you know, the issue is that yeah, it's a problem. But in any case, pretty sure that certain entities will be held accountable in the year 2021. Yet another reason to pardon Ed Snowden. Donald Trump, if you're listening. President Trump, Mr. President Trump Donald. Pardon Ed Snowden. We need his computer expertise to hold Google, Facebook, and Twitter accountable in the year 2020. Let's check out some more news sources here. How about The Blaze? I'll go to theblaze.com, as they're sort of independent and not beholden to pharmaceutical companies, for example. Oh, here's a story about Fauci. Gotta cover a story on Fauci. And for you new viewers out there, I can't stand Fauci. I consider Fauci a complete hack fraud. I would like to see what his investment portfolio looks like. How many pharmaceutical companies, how many millions of dollars worth of pharmaceutical stock does Fauci own? Fauci doubles down after being confronted over startling admission that he deceived the public about herd immunity. Who could have guessed? Who could have possibly guessed? This guy could have possibly guessed, and indeed did guess. Dr. Fauci is defending startling comments he made last week in which he admitted he was not completely honest about the number of Americans who needed to get the vaccine before the American population can achieve so-called herd immunity. Thanks for writing this one, Chris Enlow of The Blaze. Cheers. Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and a key member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Now, this is a failure on Trump's part for not firing Fauci in, May, when Fauci was clearly pandering to whoever he was talking to, as he was not giving straight answers to Congress, for example. Fauci, a complete hack fraud. Man, oh man. I would punt that guy. I would do a 70-yard squib kick with that guy. Man, oh man. Fauci admitted in an interview with the New York Times that he moved the goalposts on herd immunity percentages, partially based on public polling data to covertly encourage more Americans to get vaccinated. Did you hear that? Fauci admitted in an interview with the New York Times that he moved the goalposts on herd immunity percentages partially based on public polling data to covertly encourage more Americans to get vaccinated. Why? Because he's a hack fraud. That's why. Dr. Fauci, 100% hack. And if there's anybody who ought to be held accountable, it's that guy. Let's put his stupid-looking face on the screen and put up your non-stupid-looking viewer chats. I'll allow this to scroll down here, responding to any messages that we need. And yeah, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to have to cut this one short pretty soon here. Again, let us know if there are any other stories you'd like us to cover. It's a pretty boring day in news, ultimately. Although this is an exciting one. Once again, Fauci coming out and admitting that he has lied to you on purpose. Now, how the government would keep a guy like that employed makes perfect sense to me. Since the government is full of hack frauds, the government tends to promote people for lying and failing at their jobs. Not that the private sector doesn't, as there's plenty of that in the private sector too. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Just letting your chats scroll here before we close this thing out. Money is flowing to Amazon. Indeed. Oh my God, his fig bush has the Rona. Not the figs. No, the figs. Pull My Finger says he'd rather drive an actual Apple. Yeah. By the way, Google tried to make self-driving cars. You see those on the market? What's that? No. Because they're crap. They're crap. I don't even know if they're still doing that. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, folks, it's about time to close this thing out. Thanks for tuning in to our YouTube live stream exclusive. Again, if you viewed in syndication, leave us comments, share the content in your social media, visit the links below, support the channel. Become a patron, patreon.com/smAshomash. Again, I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. smAshomash, and it's time for me to vanish and leave you with our closing music, which is also available for stream or download in the description below the video. We'll see you next time here at Smash News Network, least busted name in news, where we encourage you to not be a hack or a fraud.